Hey everybody, it's Bob Bakert with Jazz Guitar today, and we're here with Frank Vignola. And how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good.
So in your honor today, I wore my my John
All
Lennon New York
right.
City, my John Lennon New York City t-shirt. I bought these about, I don't know, 5 years ago, and I was doing a John Lennon tribute thing, and I was gonna do the whole 9 yards, and I never did it, of course. And I've got three of these New York City T-shirts. Of course, to do it like him, you got to cut the sleeves off and all of that.
Oh,
Anyway,
hmm
so let's get back to what we wanted to talk about today, which is actually I've been watching your Birdland shows.
yeah, John Pisano. I mean, my goodness, what a big loss in
Yeah.
the jazz guitar community without even realizing it, you know? What I mean by that is I didn't realize how huge of an influence John was, not only on myself, but on the whole jazz guitar community, until he passes. Then it's like, whoa, John's not here anymore, you know? And he
It's
started the whole guitar night. I mean, he had the West Coast and Les Paul had the East Coast on Monday nights. It was like guitar night in America. So, yeah, really, really great to get to know him, even just a little bit. But the couple of days that we spent together was so special. He made me feel like I was family. It was just amazing. That's
well,
the Italian, you know.
yeah, I was gonna say that you guys, you're kindred spirits in that regard. I think you've got that same quality as well. You two guys are similar in a lot of ways. Obviously, he's almost 50 years older than you, but
He
but
has a lot more money than I had too.
well, you're similar in a lot of ways, in that it was like when I'm watching your Birdland performances. Um, you remind me of Chet Atkins in a little bit, and let me explain what I mean by that. When you watch any videos of Chet playing live in front of people, you just can't not watch what he's doing, and you know that something important is going to happen on the stage. And in watching your videos at Birdland, you have that same quality. First of all, you come out dressed in a suit. You're always looking, and the band is always in a suit, looking really put together and sharp. You're very gracious with your guests and always put them, in the spotlight. And John was like that a lot. I mean, John was not about John. John was about, just community and all those kinds of things. So I see some parallels there with some, pretty big guys. I think you're the, you know, I, from my vantage point, I mean, you're kind of, maybe a little bit too young, but you're grabbing the flame and moving it forward, man. Congratulations to you.
Well, I mean, I owe the gig to the managing partner at Birdland, Ryan. It was his idea, and I was so thrilled that he was like hip enough to first of all know who John Pisano is, then to know about John's guitar night. I want to emulate it here in New York after, playing all that time every week with Les Paul, and I always had sort of a steady night for a while, Sunday nights down at Sweet Basil. And, I always wanted to, in the back of my mind, have a communal place for guitar players to hang and play. I mean, I tell every one of the guests, it's your stage tonight. It's not my stage anymore. I'm providing you with a decent band, you know. So, I'll kind of drive the bus and it's your stage. I have them pick the tunes every week, because I've learned, wow, what a great way for me to keep my chops up and learn new tunes that I've always wanted to learn, but never really had a reason to. Now, hello, so it's been really gratifying in that way, just the amount of music I've learned, you
You know,
know.
I, that's really interesting. I did not know that they picked the tunes.
I
Uh,
mean, I eventually do because obviously, if I want everyone to know the song,
Right.
including
Yeah. That.
myself, to have a half-ass chance at it. But I want to make sure Ted knows it, Gary, and then we're set.
Right.
I like to mix up the tunes a little bit too. So I like to, once I know the type of tunes that a guest is bringing in, then I could say, hey, how about that one? Hey, how about that one? And then
Right.
we come up with.
Collaborate on it.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. Another great part is just meeting all the guitar players. I've never met or hung out or played with, probably 90% of the people that I've had at Birdland. It's crazy to think about, but true.
Oh,
Pasquale, I never heard Pasquale until he showed up at Birdland because I refused to hit that button on YouTube. And I wanted the live experience because I heard so much about this guy. I'm like, I want it firsthand. I want to see this slick little video first to alter and,
yeah.
and just blew me away, obviously. Playing, personality, everything.
Yeah, he's definitely something else.
I owe a lot to Jimmy Bruno too, getting that night started because it wasn't exactly the best of times in New York when it started.
Right. I was just going to bring up Jimmy.
Going into the coldest spell of the winter, and everything closing down still, and unsure had to be vaccinated. We were right sort of in the middle of it, even though it was kind of over at that point.
Yeah, no, I remember. I mean, I
Jimmy stepped up because I remember Ryan saying, "Man, if you can get Jimmy Bruno, that'd be great." So I was like, wow, that would be great. So I called him, and like he said, you could talk a dog from a meat truck or something like that. He has this saying. He's like, all right, I'll do it. We just got to get a ride. So we arranged for someone to take him in every week, and he committed to a good 6, 7 months to help get it going. And without him, I don't know if it would have been as successful as it is now.
well, Jimmy's Jimmy. There's nothing like him. He's a force of nature unto himself, and he's another guy. When he's on the stage, you have to pay attention to what's going on because
Oh yeah. Another big surprise was just Mike Stern, how nice of a man he is, but also, my goodness, this guy can play jazz.
oh yeah,
He's like the fusion guitar originator, but coming from, knows all these great Cole Porter tunes and go over his house, just play counter lines for 20 minutes on a song. And it's really a pleasant surprise. And again, I've learned so much just from being around, iconic and great guitars. Rodney Jones, another one, just my goodness, that guy can play like crazy. So a lot of fun. Al Gaffa, age of 85 or something, he came in with his Gibson Johnny Smith and tore the place up one night. Drove through a rainstorm too. I'm like, man, this is a lesson to all the young youth out there who are late to a gig. Here's a
right.
guy on time with flooding on the West Side Highway. I'm like, there you go.
You know, you make a really, really great point about Birdland and the importance of what you're doing there, and that not only obviously can you come to New York and see it all live, um, but the fact that you can watch it on YouTube live as it's happening and get firsthand exposure because they do a great job in the production of that thing. I mean, you can really hear the guitars well, and you can, the
Former CBS.
bass and piano and everything
That's
is.
all live editing too. That's all, he knows what's coming up. He's in the band.
Yeah, no,
Tells, hey, they're going to trade, and then he goes to the drum and the piano. It's
it's
really
a
amazing.
fantastic production. It really is. And now, is that where he's from? Is he a CBS guy? Is that where he?
Former CBS, yeah. So,
Wow.
yeah, he's they got it together over there. I'm
Well,
very
it shows.
impressed with the whole operation over there. You know, I've lived in New York my whole life. I kind of cut my teeth at a place called Michael's Pub in the late 80s, which was a, big jazz cabaret. Joe Venuti played there, a lot of the great vocalists like Carmen McRae and
Hmm.
Zoot Sims. The guy really knew jazz. So I did a lot of time there, and having been away from New York for so long, meaning on tour all the time,
Right.
once in a while I would play a little place or something. I'm like, wow, this is, how can anybody make a living playing in these places? And some places they don't even have a stage. I'm like, wow, you're being presented and you're sitting on a cement floor. I'm like, yeah, yeah. Anyway, but they really, especially the downstairs, that theater, the sound is so good in that room that all of the microphones that everyone sees are strictly for the live stream. There
Yeah.
is not one microphone that's on in the house.
Right.
It is so acoustically perfect. It's amazing. It really is amazing. One week we played a weekend there, and they didn't do the live stream over the weekend. I'm like, where are all the mics? They're like, oh, we don't use mics. I'm like, wow, this is like getting better and better. I had no idea, you know.
Well, the sound is the sound is great. The cameras are great. Whoever's doing it
And
is
the musicianship, I mean, that piano player, Ted Rosenthal, I mean, I've known him since I was 19. We did, a lot of work together early on, but my
yeah.
goodness, to be able to hear that every week so close is so, is so good for me because there's nothing like the piano. I love the piano.
Oh
There's just
yeah.
nothing like it.
Yeah.
And he can play stride James P. Johnson and sit there with Mike Stern and mix it up on the outside world there, which I'm still trying to get a hold of.
He's a wonderful player. He's just so elegant in everything that he does. And they've got a really nice camera on him.
Right.
When he's playing, it comes across. You can watch his hands do what they're doing, and
Yeah.
the audio on the piano was great. And he just is just a very elegant player. I played for about 10 years at a jam session. I stopped doing it about 4 or 5 months ago. And the piano player that's there is a guy named Randy Hexter, and he's another one of these brilliant, guys. And when
Every song, any key, it's like you need an introduction. You want to play the verse? I'm like,
yeah,
what have I been doing with my life?
yeah, and then the bass player Andre Mango was he tours with big singer Josh Groban,
Oh,
and
wow.
and the drummer is these guys are from Africa. The drummer, um, Yaku Daniel and Goosen. These guys are they're phenomenal. I get up and play 2 or 3 tunes with them, and all that.
Nice.
But I understand what you're saying, you got the best seat in the house too, because you're like right there and the sound is
Love it.
and 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 then to listen to what you're doing, I mean, it sounds great. I mean, it's a I'm really pushing the whole Birdland thing because I don't know of another scenario that's produced as well as that you can see on a weekly basis, that you're getting world-class players, you know, trying, I don't know, it's not a cutting session, but they're definitely there to play the best they can play.
Hey, listen, it's one set. We got 75 to 90 minutes to give it our all. And I want to tell you something. We're usually jamming right up until,
Yeah,
in the back room there. We have a beautiful couches and have a little coffee and a soda and sit there and play the songs that we're going to play.
yeah.
So it's really a lot of fun for me, just because I grew up sort of with a lot of guitar players around, always
Hmm.
jamming, always meeting new people, going into the city to Eddie Condon's place to hear Chris Flory and Howard Alden. And, it was like real exciting time to have a community of
No, no, it's
guitarists. And then
phenomenal.
hooking up with Les Paul, being with him all those years. I mean, a lot of guitar players hanging around there every week.
Do you know,
So,
speaking of Les Paul, I was not hip to Les Paul, other than I knew who he was. I knew what he looked like. I saw the cheesy video of him doing that, but I never really understood what a real player he was. And then I got hip to that, and I went, oh my God.
But Bob, not only just a player, but a producer, an
Oh yeah,
engineer, because, there were he didn't write out his arrangements. He had them all in his head, all those arrangements of How High the Moon, and they're complicated arrangements.
yeah, and the
They were
whole
all
Bing,
in his head because he couldn't go back and put tape together. It was one
well,
tape.
the whole Bing Crosby, financing the development of microphones and recording and all that stuff too. I mean, that's a whole different level of stuff.
I was
Go ahead.
gonna say, I just got this guitar 51L7 with his McCarty pickups, and I've been doing research on Tom McCarty.
Yeah,
And, I just wish I knew about Tom McCarty when Les was alive. Because they must have worked together, because he was in with the design of the Les Paul, which was
right.
the 51, I believe, the first one. So, but these pickups are the precursor to the P90s. And just, wow, the innovation that was going on then, how good those recordings sounded when you think about it. I mean, even now, you put on a Les Paul record, it sounds wonderful, right? I'm like, wow, man, just perfect. How did he do that?
Pre digital, you know.
And like you said, an amazing guitar player. I mean,
Yeah.
he could really swing. My goodness,
No,
so
he was it's I just didn't realize it. I was just a Les Paul was a guitar to me. I knew he was a player, but all I saw was like the How High the Moon thing with his wife, and I just thought, well, I just didn't go any further than that. That was
right.
it. And then all of a sudden, when I understood that you were doing the thing with him, when I got to know you some, and then I started watching some of the videos that, from when he was doing his thing, I go, holy shit. And then I delved in a little deeper, and I went, wow, what a place, what a thing. And there you are, like right there with him for 6 years, I guess it was, huh?
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. Every week was just so special. Really, I learned so much about sound or just how important it is to have a tone. When you try to take the bridge of I'm confessing that I love you after Les Paul plays the A sections, you realize how weak your tone is, I'm trying to say. So it was a real great lesson for that. Also, he could play the blues like nobody. Wow.
No, yeah,
Oh, and like there's so much blues in his playing, which jazz comes from the blues.
yeah.
So even, we used to play like The World is Waiting for the Sunrise and some of his hits, and he come in with these, I mean, just killer, and everybody's chomping along there. It's like, wow,
BB Paul.
Oh, it just reminded me of like Sweets Edison on the guitar. If he grabbed the guitar, just that kind of real swing, style of playing. So yeah,
So
yeah.
so tell me about that guitar. I was watching, and I saw you. It seems like every week you were bringing in a different guitar to play. You know, you have all kinds of different things, and then this thing shows up. I got to tell you, that thing's got tone for days. I mean,
It's
it
got some sustain, and I get it with the vintage Gibsons now. I get it. I've always wanted a 175.
right.
This thing sort of appeared in my life, and the gentleman who so graciously sold it to me was very, very considerate, and generous. So I was able to grab it. I didn't know that I would enjoy these pickups so much. And then I plugged it into that 66 Princeton that I have at
Hmm.
Birdland there, and it's like, whoa, that's the sound. I'm saying to myself, like, wow, you don't have to play as much. Uh, like I said, a lot of sustain. And I love guitars. I have 23 guitars, 24 guitars. I like to play them.
Right,
I really do. They're all over the house, and I try to pick one every couple of months and really
right.
try to get it into shape again. Love my Sadowskis. The great, the Eastman model, the Thorell. But now it's like, whoa, let's explore this Gibson sound a little bit because I'm
Well,
really.
you know, what's
And the
interesting is,
other thing, Bob, is with this one screw, two screws, this whole thing comes off, and now it's a completely acoustic L7, no wires in the guitar, right? So last
wow,
weekend I did my duo show with Tessa Lark, the violinist, in
yeah.
these really fine concert halls, no amplification, no microphones, just a beautiful hall with full of people. Took this thing off, and it was like the greatest arch top acoustic guitar you can imagine. Little hard on the hands, but that's okay. I can still deal with that. Morning, I put the pickup back on. I'm like, wow, what a brilliant design.
The thing that I find really interesting is the difference between a cutaway and a non-cutaway guitar. And I I prefer the non-cutaway guitars to the cutaway guitars like 10 to 1. Um, I mean,
Thought about that, but there is a difference, isn't there?
there is a huge difference, and it's the real instrument without the cutaway. In other words, you can really hear all the acoustic, that you can hear the acoustic properties of the guitar from its full potential.
I'm with you. And how often do you really play up there?
Well, if you look at the access right there, you can, one of the things that you do all the time. Let me see if I can. You do this, like that fast vibrato thing or fast, where you take it, you'll play a note. Yeah, and I mean,
Yep,
you can get up there. There's no
you
problem.
can. I love the double cutaway as well because then you could really play in this part of the fingerboard, which is kind of like being in here,
Yeah.
but only you're on the middle strings. So it's a very interesting sound quality
You mean like the Barney, like the Barney Kessel?
that's my next that's the one I want to get next is some kind of double cutaway.
It's really
Talking
funny.
to Ethan about talking to Otto about it because I think it's a pretty cool design, that double cutaway, and it really allows you to get in there.
You being in New York, you should try to find Gene Cornish's guitar from the Young Rascals because that's what he played.
Oh, really?
He played a,
Wow.
a, a black Barney Kessel. He sure did.
Wow.
They're getting to be, it's really funny because when I was in high school, that's when his Gibson model came out. Of course, he never played it. He played it the 350, but that's when it came. A friend of mine in high school, his father was a dentist, and his grandmother bought him one of those guitars, which was like, I don't know, maybe $1,000 at that time, which was like absurd amount of money.
Right.
And he had a Barney Kessel custom with the bow ties and all that kind of stuff. And then, what's his name? Gene Cornish from the Young Rascals played one, a black one, if I remember correctly. And then the guitar just went away up until about a year ago.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden, I'm starting to see,
More,
though,
huh?
yeah, people are digging on that body shape. But maybe Dave Grohl had something to do with that, with the Trini Lopez model. Like
All right.
bringing back some of those, older, from that era Gibsons, and I can't find a Trini Lopez, but man, this Barney Kessel is cool, and they're still picking them up at reasonable money.
Yeah, I had the Eastman 335 model. That's what got me into playing up there. I'm like, wow, you can get all the way up there,
Yeah,
with the double cutaway, which I'd never experienced before because I don't really play that style guitar. I like this is 17 inch, and I'm really digging it. I just like the sound. I think it really fits the vibe of the music too. I mean,
absolutely.
oh, it like really, that's the sound I really like.
Well,
Very pretty.
so much of your playing is about the melody, and that guitar
My
just
lack of technique.
oh, I don't know if anybody would ever say that. I don't know if anybody would ever say that, but so much you're playing is about the melody, and that guitar just grabs that, grabs the melody and does, just wonderful things and allows you to just play the music and not think about the guitarish, guitar type stuff. I think it's cool. I love it, and the vibe is on the guitar is so cool too. I mean, just the way it looks and all
Yeah,
that.
it was nice too to have to play with Vinny, as you know, we've played thousands of shows together on my,
Right,
Thorell Eastman model and the Collings,
right.
which is perfect for the duo. And then he brought his Guild, and I had this. I'm like, talk about a match made in heaven, a Guild Artist Award in the
Yeah,
60s. And this guitar, it's like, wow, they match so well together. So.
I saw that. I was watching that show and I thought to myself, yeah, it really was a great match. It was fun to see you guys playing again together because you kind of got back into your act a little bit.
Well, you know what's great is we could do all those duo
I
lines
know
that
it. I'm
we worked
going.
up. And now I'm like, talk about the sky's the limit, because all I have to do is say, Vinny, let's do Scrapple from the Apple next week. He'll have a beautiful harmony part. We'll run it about 50 times before dinner, and then we go out there and play it. What a great opportunity to learn, you
I
know?
was gonna ask you about that. It was like you guys never stopped playing. It was like it was as tight as it could possibly be, man.
We usually do that duo, but now we don't have to back each other up. I'm like, this is great, Vinny. Look at this.
It was a fun thing. It was a fun thing to watch for sure. It was pretty amazing. And then
That's the fun part is when, I mean, when you meet the people who you get along with musically and
right,
personally, and it's a lot of fun. You really look forward to it.
right.
That's what I like about the Wednesday nights is
Man, it's such a cool thing to do.